but they will just stick to the draft that they have been doing so far, and that will be removing that Idris from gameplay. However, the side of Infamous will be sticking hard onto that Grace. That Divine Intervention was working out so well for them, and the amount of slows and stuns, knockups that Grace can provide in a team fight is very, very important, and definitely will do well for Infamous if they do so want to go for a mage. But for the side of BREN Esports, I doubt they would like to go for that weapon battle again, seeing how it is so easily countered by a farmed up blue icy dragon. But from the side of BREN Esports, we will be seeing the Black Feather coming back.
Yep, and instead of banning out this Black Feather, going to them instead, and I think that's a very good idea for the side of BREN Esports, and they're going to ban out that Celeste. That means Scarf is still open on the table, but you know what? We could see a weapon power Black Feather, and possibly BREN Esports go for the pickup on the Scarf, as they are going to have a next pick after this ban. But that is the question. What do you think? Ooh, Infamous will get banned here. I was going to ask you that, but they answered it for me. Two very targeted bans coming into this final matchup. They go for the Lance ban and they go for the Pedal ban to finish it off. And this could imply even more so why the side of BREN Esports could go for that Scarf. I mean, there's no need for them to go for Pedal now because they can't. So what do you think is going to be the answer?
I don't think BREN Esports would really go for that Scarf. It hasn't quite shown in their previous gameplay at all. If anything, they are giving a lot of thought into this all in all, and they will settle for the Arden. Guessing X has played quite a good Arden all in all, but I mean, for me, if you were to ask me, Petal will not be picked up. I mean, since Petal is banned out and the side of BREN Esports don't have a history of picking up Scarf, they will just open a last pick maybe to a Taka to maybe just starve that of Scarf out if Infamous brings out this Scarf, and Taka will be highly a pickup for Sync1. Sync1 has worked very well with Taka, showed great performance as well when going up against Impunity yesterday, if I remember correctly, all in all.
Yep, and with that, it is maybe more so for give that team by securing this Arden pickup, and we could always see a replay of the first match that they had, and Infamous could have taken that Arden away. So I think locking down that Arden, making sure they have a decent support is also a good idea.
Yep, definitely. I mean, with an Arden, you just boost mobility, and with that Gauntlet as well, a form of soft CC, unless, of course, you can land your Gauntlet on all three members of the enemy's team. But this time, Infamous really taking the time and will ultimately lock in the Grace and Glaive combination. And honestly, like I said, they should have just stopped or remove the Glaive out from Infamous. Infamous just played so well on that Glaive, and this time we will see once again Spaghetti going onto the CP Adagio.
Ooh, CP Adagio making a... I mean, Infamous have to... And now we're going to see what BREN Esports decide to go and reply to this, because once again, they've allowed the Glaive and Grace pickup for the side of Infamous, and it just goes so strong with so many laners.
This game, Infamous with a very aggressive maneuver will probably be catching Guessing out after burn-in.
Oh, and they do the afterburn catching out Guessing. Actually picking up that Benedict first, it will be enough to slow them down, and they manage to get the first blood onto Adam before he can get back to the turret to save his own life. However, he will be back on the fold within a matter of seconds, but that's first blood going over very early and very unnecessarily to the side of Infamous, as BREN Esports could have avoided that. They should have known that Infamous, especially with this Grace, like to play so aggressive in the early game with their rotations.
Definitely, and I usually would see a Grace rather, if with early game aggression maneuvers or movements coming out from Grace, usually will pick up the Dragon Blood contract, but with the Iron Guard, or rather the Protector contract coming out from Grace, means that she can supplement a form of health barrier to his teammates when the teammates are in engagement. That way can help them sustain for a much longer time on top of the sustain that Adagio can already provide in this early game. Mr. Jim going up against this Adagio in lane will have a pretty difficult time, especially since Adagio has got much longer range as compared to him, and the burn as well will probably disrupt him and just mess a lot with his farming phase.
Yeah, it will indeed, especially with melee. Those minions, it definitely gives the advantage to the side of Infamous and more so Spaghetti on this Adagio. And we see once again Infamous with that rotation down into this jungle, being very aggressive, stealing a lot of farm away from the Sky, but Sky going to take the opportunity to come up to lane, put down a bit of pressure on Spaghetti. Spaghetti able to dodge out the amount of the damage coming off of poor Barrage, and now Sync1 having to rotate back to their jungle. Maybe they realize that Chingy could be back there, and Chingy just going to go back to base. I think, oh no, they might be up to steal away from his backs, but meanwhile up in lane, a bit of poke going down, Spaghetti going fairly low, Protector's contract was used, and looking back over into...
Oh, Sync1 maybe able to catch Chingy out.
Steal that one away. But yes, and back to the lane, so a fair bit going on all over the fold right now. Mr. Jim does get Spaghetti fairly low, but SNK is there to defend them for now. Mr. Jim stops the back by Spaghetti. It could be fake because SNK able to land the Holy Nova, and guessing now going very low in return. This could be in favor of Infamous now, but Mr. Jim doing a good job at holding his ground.
Yep, Spaghetti as well, I must say. They started off pretty healthy. Oh, the amount of health barrier the Guessing X can provide in this early game is just so much. And the minion candy popped once again for the side of BREN ESPORTS.
Look at this Chingy coming up behind the rest of it. And on K, but get out the Jim to push him on the turret and able to pick up. Jim caught up in the Vanguard, should be up to stay life fairly long, goes down in the end, and Sync1, I don't think able to finish off a kill in return, so good job for Chingy rotating up behind them. They're able to make it an even trade and keep their advantage for Chingy. Almost catching out. No! The damage coming out from Chingy so early on was enough to kill Guessing.
Yep, and Spaghetti sitting on 2.7 thousand gold, really needs to shop soon. Only have got a Swifty and first tier boots in his pocket right now. But all in all, Spaghetti is still contributing into the team fights with the sustain and the gift of fire that he can put out for his allies in this early game. But all in all, in order for Spaghetti to actually put out a lot of pressure into lane, he really needs to shop and then just outpoke Mr. Jim in this laning phase. We all know Adagio just does so well in the early game, only because of the amount of damage he can have with just one alternating current as compared to other carries out there. And a lot of his basic attacks, even built as CP, comes from his B ability, that buff on himself. So that is one thing that maybe BREN ESPORTS have to take advantage of, and that is just to turtle up, farm up for the late game, because Sync1 and Mr. Jim just does so well in that late game as compared to the early game.
Yep, and we will have to fake him down. Just judging from previous Infamous matches, they will be able to take this turret by about 7 to 8 minutes if they continue to put the pressure down. Infamous, you know, seeing it 3 kills, that's a pretty good job. Meanwhile, Bren's still back at 1, so it's nothing to frown upon. But there's the death from above, catches out Chingy and SNK. The thing is, right now, BREN ESPORTS in a bit of a similar situation to before. They just don't have the damage to respond to the opportunities they're given.
Oh, Chingy comes in, probably looking for an afterburn. SNK taking 2 turret shots from there.
Chingy walking very close, still holding on to that of there as we see Sync1 pushing on to the lane with this Frostburn in hand. Is game ready to go on to Spaghetti, but Chingy is nearby and Wayne. There's going to be the Holy Nova does catch out Sync1, and Mr. Jim very low on the front line is just going to have to fight for it. But Chingy with an amazing afterburn helps Spaghetti pick up that kill, and then now looking very strong. They should be able to sustain this one out if they want to push for the turret, but realizing that they're going to turn their attention elsewhere and just move down into the jungle.
Yep, very well played coming out from Infamous there, very swiftly picking up 3 kills, or rather 3 kills for themselves in that short time, although unable to push the turret yet. I mean, both Spaghetti and Chingy have to be in rather close range, and they do not quite have the damage over time like that, you know, of their mage, or if they're on a mage roles, then, you know, mages just have got a better siege potential as compared to, say, this Adagio or even Chingy on this glaive. But all in all, they will excel in team fights in this early game. Now Chingy is sitting at level 7, has got Blood Song for the extra sustain as well, maybe looking for an afterbirth.
Yeah, maybe indeed, as the minion in there gets caught out by the death from above, but afterburn to escape once again. A very good engage and disengage mechanic for that hero, and it will be up in another 10 seconds for them. And BREN Esports, meanwhile, not really looking for a fight, just going to hold this turret and continue to farm up. And I think that's what's so important. As long as they can continue to do that and not let Infamous get too far ahead, they still have an opportunity for them into the mid to late game.
Yep, and this is one thing maybe. I mean, all in all, I want to say that BREN Esports have got a better late game comp as compared to, say, Infamous and Spaghetti. I mean, granted, they have got an Adagio, so that would make full sense. The problem now is that BREN Esports probably very, very held back at this point in time, and just not looking to push, or rather, I'm sorry, I mean Infamous just very held back at this point in time and just refusing to push their early game advantage. I mean, Infamous...
Ooh, I'm not sure if it's refusing or respecting BREN Esports. Dangerous position for Sky to be in as they get taken down instantly. The Divine Intervention going to heal Spaghetti back up, so anything Mr. Jim did before is going to be useless. Mr. Jim actually trying to get the minions at the back, so stopping the side of Infamous from pushing onto that turret. A very good technique, but whether they'll get caught out for it is the question. They don't have any Rose offensives available. I'm guessing going to jump in there with the Vanguard to try save him, but gets taken down instead, and they're both going to fall. Sky is up, and the only one left to defend this turret, though I don't think they can do it on their own. They need to be careful to not get taken out themselves and hand over the ace. Chingy already working on stealing some farm away, and this was the slip up. You saw in that fight, Sync1 just trying to get in there, found themselves in the Holy Nova. They got knocked up, and meanwhile Chingy was right next to that Grace. A damage onto Sync1, take them out instantly. And then they just turned their attention to protecting Spaghetti, who was being jumped on by Mr. Jim, and it just worked out so well for Infamous.
Yep, and we saw the amount of damage that Spaghetti can put out onto Guessing X on that of Arden. And Arden is their dedicated roam, their dedicated tank all in all, and yet Spaghetti can just put out so much damage. Oh, the amount of damage on Sync1.
Sync1 going very low. Push this, and they are paying attention, but luckily it was whether Chingy's going to go over that wall. I wonder if he had the intention of doing so, but no, they're going to go for this Crystal Sentry. A bit later than the previous games we have seen by them, but still a fairly early Crystal Sentry overall. After they've taken their first turret, it is a good idea for that to be the next objective. It is quite hard to push in.
Yep, definitely. I mean,
Crystal Sentry and some farm is bad idea.
Yep, I mean, after you take the first turret, generally half of the jungle quite belongs to you. You have got that roaming opportunity, and you can just capitalize on the fact that, you know, your enemies cannot be anywhere near the first turret after you've taken it down. It is Spaghetti, though, looking to put some pressure onto Mr. Jim, buffed himself up as well. Sync1 goes in with the barrage, but just not connecting whatsoever. Infamous now being super patient with their engagers and understanding the power spikes that maybe Sync1 has got now, but Infamous going in, pushing this wave in, probably trying to take this second turret out of BREN Esports' hands.
Yep. Oh, Mr. Jim going down instantly. This back damage line showing as SK uses the Divine Intervention to keep him alive, has the Echo available, so Divine Intervention up once again to help them push through this turret, but they don't even need it. They're going to be able to take it, and that's getting kills and taking so much away from It's really pushes them through to the win slowly but surely. What's really, I think, the way to beat Infamous is to even with them throughout the whole game, but it's such a tough thing to do. It's easier said than done, of course, or manage to get Kraken steals and turn it around late game with some spectacular comeback, but there's going to be no gold mine steal at this point, and SNK are going to be up to escape the grasps of BREN Esports, and we can see that lead starting to build up for the side of Infamous. I mean, they've already got 9 kills over to 1 kill on the side of BREN Esports, but when we look at the gold, they're 30k over to 23.k. It's a fairly similar situation to last time, and if they win any more team fights and take any more objectives, they're definitely on their way to that 10k lead, where I just think Infamous is unstoppable.
Yep, I mean, Infamous, so very comfortable on the respective heroes that they are on and they are playing on. So, you know, if Infamous do close this out and do not have a 10k gold, it will be more pressure coming out from Infamous.
Yep, Mr. Jim needing to be careful. The Infamous really wants anchor pressure as soon as possible, not letting BREN Esports get towards that late game. SNK jumping sync 1, but Black Feather isn't here to help defend the turret, but it looks like Infamous might back out from that. Death from above was used, and there's the gauntlet coming down from Guessing. They're going for the fight, but Guessing in the middle of it will be not the first one to go down. They do manage to get Ching in, they manage to get Spaghetti. BREN with the turnaround. SNK going in with a stay alive as long as they can, but BREN Esports getting the ace and not losing anyone in it. If this was only a few minutes later, BREN Esports could have got a Kraken from this, but we're still 13 minutes 20 in. I'm sure this is enough in their faces. They managed to get a turret, and just getting that ace against Infamous must feel so good at this point, where Infamous were in so much control of this game until then.
Well, but honestly, if you don't ask me, I just need to say, and I will say, it was because SNK was chilling by the brush there that allowed and just put Infamous, only Chingy and Spaghetti in the lane in the fight. Although SNK did come up with the divine intervention, but SNK was stuck at a gauntlet for quite a while before he actually entered the fight. And all in all, he wasn't part of the fight. He was only part of the fight, rather, after Chingy and Spaghetti went down very quickly in. And that is one thing that maybe Infamous have to work on, and maybe it's the synergy and maybe communications as well going into any team fights from now. They really cannot allow any more slip-ups from here on, because, I mean, look at Mr. Jim. Mr. Jim has got to suffer masks, poison shift, and breaking point, going towards the defenses as well. And Sync 1 has got 2 items now built up. SNK goes in with the Benediction.
Yep, and does find Sync 1, but there's going to be the Vanguard. Safety of that base instead of trying to fight this on the side. Although Gauntlet is up once again, they could force a fight. Death from above going to zone out the rest of Infamous, and I'm not sure if they're going to be looking for anything more. But no, they're just going to clear the way. There's going to be the Gauntlet. They managed to catch out Chingy on the edge of it, but it means Infamous still together overall as a team, and Mr. Jim taking so much damage from Spaghetti. There's going to be the divine intervention to heal Spaghetti right back up, and the fountain used for the side of BREN Esports. Meanwhile, Infamous able to hold on to that fountain. They get the anchor turret, and there's no Gauntlet on the side of BREN Esports. They don't have that echo yet, so they're at a disadvantage if they choose to fight now.
Yep. SNK very low.
It looks like SNK going low, but that is only the Roma, and it is not the damage dealers as we see Chingy going in instantly, picking up Mr. Jim in return, almost getting Guess as well. Before that, when Infamous was split up, is definitely an opportunity for BREN Esports to win, and I think that's why even with the and that we saw via an Arden pickup is a good supplementary pick, because you have that Gauntlet that can really split up those teams that work so well together. And that is a lot of the factor there, that even if it was Infamous' mistake for being mispositioned, it's up to Arden to land those Gauntlets to take advantage of that.
I mean, we saw the amount of damage Spaghetti has. Just went in, healed himself, slowed Arden up, buffed himself, and landed 3 basic attacks, and Arden is forced now just to back off back home and heal up, and that was Arden down to half health just from 3 buff basic attacks from Spaghetti. However, looking over to SNK, I must say I really like the build coming out from SNK. Has got a contraption for the extra vision, extra cooldown, extra health as well. On top of that, has got Echo and Shatter Glass. That means SNK will be healing a truck and be able to do damage with that Holy Nova and the Divine, or rather Benediction. So healing now would be prioritized, or rather is the emphasis now for Infamous. They really want to be in the midst of fight, and on top of that as well, Infamous, or rather Spaghetti, or rather Chingy. Oh, I just kept getting names mixed up. Just wants their bestest, right, to just put out as much damage in the shortest amount of time, and with the amount of sustain that SNK can provide with this particular build on him, it is just insane the amount of heal that will be coming out from SNK on this Grace.
Yeah, and we do see that Kraken is back on the fold once again. Or I believe, did they push through those turrets without even needing Kraken?
Yes, they did.
It just felt like they had, to be honest, it felt like they had a Kraken with them. That is how strong and how good Infamous are at pushing through these objectives. And I mean, they've managed to break open the base. There's only the last 2 remaining turrets in front of the Vein Crystal for them. So 1 Kraken is all they need. And that looks like a bit of a glitch on my screen. Guessing should have landed that gauntlet elsewhere, but the wall catching him out, making it go back a fair bit. He does have the Echo, however. That is not when you want to use the Echo for a mistake like that. There's going to be the death from above on the backline, but they really need to worry. Spaghetti who's pushing in. There's going to be the gauntlet, but a defensive one. Fountain used as well. Everything being used on the side of BREN Esports just to escape. And Chingy is going to dive into the front line. Sync One doing a great job of getting the target lock and using the Surrey Strike to get around them. But I wouldn't be surprised if Infamous rush a Kraken now, or they will continue to focus down this lane.
I mean, they can just push this lane out and rush for this Kraken, as we do see Chingy starting the Kraken off. Spaghetti in a position.
Positioning by Spaghetti back here. So patient with it. He's waiting until the last second. Go to the line, but Sync One diving away instantly. There's going to be the Verse of Judgment, stuns out Guessing, and now it's such in favor of Infamous, but Sync One not going down with our fight, manages to find the kill onto Glaive, although he's the last one left standing for BREN Esports. The Crystal Sentry is alive, and he's going to make Refugee there for now. Needs to be careful, however, because even with only Spaghetti and SNK, they can surely take the Kraken with the damage that Spaghetti has. He's got the All-Name Current, Broken Myth, Shatter Glass, and now picking up that Frostburn, and has the Crystal Infusion as well. Spaghetti just so strong at point 190 CS in, and we're 19 minutes into this game, so very good, perfect farm. Whether Sky's going to go and challenge question, they are all on their own. Guessing is still in the base. Sync One's going to go for it. They try and fight out with Spaghetti, but Spaghetti dodges out the death from above and gets the healing from Divine Intervention. Are they going to go back into the fight is the question. Guessing flares it out. Is he able to get the steal? No, he doesn't. He lands, but there still could be a turnaround for BREN if they act fast, but second Divine Intervention coming through onto Spaghetti. 1,000 healing, just massive at this point. They're able to keep them alive, and really, they're forcing BREN Esports onto their back feet here. They've only got their last 2 turrets to defend. Is looking dire indeed.
Yep, very dire. And now Spaghetti just putting down basic attacks onto Guessing, pushing with Helga down this lane, and hopefully, or rather for the side of Infamous, hopefully closing this game out. Chingy once again very patient, just looking for that afterburn. Mr. Jim with those on point, just trying to poke out, but a fight will ensue.
Oh, and great Holy Nova is going to knock Guessing and Mr. Jim for them to go back to working on this Kraken, trying to defend, but they need to try get some of Infamous down, and there's going to be the death the Verse of Judgment. Meanwhile, Sky able to pick up a kill onto Glaive, but they're going so low to this Adagio, and Adagio managed to pick up the kill, pick up the turret. Mr. Jim trying to find their way to Spaghetti, but walks right into the Holy Nova. Kraken still at half health, and it looks like this is game for Infamous. GG, well played, and Infamous showing that they are still the top of the table, managing to take it 2-1. Although BREN Esports putting up a great game, a great match in the first game, with that weapon power pedal. They just weren't able to bring it through in the second one, and obviously in the third match,